Some viruses are like MacGyvers or Bear Grylls. They inject themselves into host cells without any equipment and use what's available to them in their surrounding environment to survive. Whether that's using host cell proteins to shuttle in and out of nuclei, or clothing themselves in host cell envelopes, they're pretty badass. Poxvirus, however, is not one of these MacGyver viruses. Poxvirus is like one of those Y2K conspiracy theorists who built an underground shelter packed full of canned beans, 200 gallons of water, ammunition, and tinfoil hats. Poxvirus is a nervous Nelly and an over-preparer that packs every piece of equipment it needs for replication into each virion. For this reason, we've titled this script Pox in a Box. And this scene's going to take place at Guarnieri's Boxing and Shipping Company. Notice first that we've used predominantly blue tones in this sketch to signify that poxvirus is a DNA virus. And like I've said, we set this scene at a boxing and shipping company because part of what makes poxvirus different from the other viruses is how it's packaged. Poxvirus essentially comes with everything it needs inside of it, thus it's like its own little ready-made box. For example, unlike most viruses, it's important to remember that poxviruses make their own envelopes instead of taking them from their host. So to remember this, we'll draw in these workers here making their own envelopes. You should also know that poxvirus is the only DNA virus you'll learn about that completely replicates in the cytoplasm. It has packed along a special DNA-dependent RNA polymerase, which is a fancy word for an RNA polymerase that reads DNA. You'd normally find it in the nucleus, but because poxvirus has its own, it can just make messenger RNA right there in the cytoplasm, which is then processed by the ribosomes into proteins. It'll produce all the proteins it needs, including its own DNA polymerase, and so it never has to go into the nucleus like other DNA viruses. So we named it Pox in the Box because it's equipped with all these goods, and it's all set to infect. And to really solidify this, we have these workers here stuffing packages, just like Pox is a ready-made stuffed package. So kind of an extension of this concept is that you should know that Pox forms intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies in the cells that they infect. The most important ones to remember are the type B inclusions, or Guarnieri bodies, which represent sites of viral replication. It's important to know that they're intracytoplasmic because that's where the replication occurs, so finding these on biopsy of a skin lesion is diagnostic for poxvirus. To help you remember this, we have a map in the back. The HQ stands for headquarters and is circled on the map to represent the nucleus. We've drawn a bunch of G's dotted across the world to represent the Guarnieri inclusion bodies, or the sites of replication in the cytoplasm, outside the nucleus. We've also named the shipping company Guarnieris to help reinforce this concept. But please, remembering whether pox causes intracytoplasmic or intranuclear inclusions isn't something you need rote memory for. This should make sense intuitively. Unlike other DNA viruses, poxvirus doesn't need to go into the nucleus, so that's why you'll only see the inclusion bodies in the cytoplasm. Another little fun fact is that pox has a dumbbell-shaped core. So to help you remember this, we've placed dumbbells in these boxes here. Also, another little trivia fact for you is that poxvirus is the largest known DNA virus. Notice that below the company's sign is another line, a tagline, that reads, "World's Largest," which will help you remember this. The poxvirus family has a few important members you want to know. We'll start off with the smallpox virus. To represent smallpox, we'll put a sign up here that says small box. So smallpox, or variola, causes raised blisters on the skin and mucosal surfaces. But be careful not to confuse variola with varicella, or chickenpox. Both chickenpox and smallpox present with these scattered ulcers and blisters, but you can definitely tell them apart clinically. The key in the distinction is that the lesions are of the same age for smallpox. Varicella, or chickenpox, on the other hand, will have a mixture of new blisters, ulcers, and healing scabs. So to help you remember that smallpox lesions are all the same age, we have the same day shipping sign right under the small box sign. Same day for same age. Another pox virus, cowpox, causes symptoms similar to smallpox, and we're mentioning it because it has a somewhat interesting story. First, cowpox is transmitted by contact with infected cow udders. So our tie-in for cowpox is this large, udder-shaped styrofoam dispensing unit. You know those styrofoam peanuts in boxes? Well, that's what this guy's shooting out. So the story I wanted to tell is about this astute scientist, Edward Jenner, who saw that milkmaids who got cowpox were protected from getting smallpox. His first test subject was his gardener's 8-year-old son, who was inoculated with the liquid that was extracted from milkmaids' blisters. Since then, the vaccine has been refined, and with massive vaccination efforts, smallpox was successfully eradicated from the entire world, which is pretty amazing. And that's why you never hear smallpox among the arsenal of vaccines that babies get. So currently, smallpox only exists in laboratories that study the virus, but it does have potential to become a bioweapon. So yeah, thanks to cowpox, we no longer have smallpox. And the last pox virus I'll talk about is the Molluscum contagiosum virus, which causes the condition for which it's named. You may know that mollusks are invertebrate, which includes snails, so we'll focus our attention on this snail mail area here. Molluscum contagiosum presents as flesh-colored, dome-shaped, umbilicated lesions, which happen to look a lot like our snail's shell. The word umbilicated means it has a little dimple in the middle, just like your umbilicus or umbilicus is a dimple in the middle of your belly. This is an important buzzword to associate with this disease, and it's most commonly seen in children and can be found anywhere except for the palms and soles, and is more often seen on the trunk, axilla, the antecubital fossa, and popliteal fossa. To help you remember this, we'll draw a kid here who just got into one of our snail mail boxes and has these snail stamps all over his trunk. When it occurs in healthy adults, it's usually related to sexual transmission and presents as a single umbilicated lesion. However, if it spreads diffusely in an adult, the person likely has HIV and is immunosuppressed. So to help you remember this, we've drawn our recurring cane symbol here to remind you of this immunosuppression. Okay, so to quickly review, you've got the large pox virus with its unique ability to generate its own envelope and package all the things it needs into its box, conveniently staying in the cytoplasm and replicating there. The three main viruses in this family are smallpox, cowpox, and Molluscum contagiosum. And with knowing all that, you should be pretty good. So let's pack up and ship out.